Welcome to this week's episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network, sponsored by the CBC Success Group. And today we've got myself, Jerry Eisenhower. We got Josh Kelly on here, one of our team members. We got Cheryl Eisenhower on here. And we got our good friend returning back. He does such an excellent job, Randy Sperling, coming out of Rochester, New York. That's also is working into being a team member. We're going to have him on as a member of the team for long. But Randy has turned into an excellent part of this broadcast. Today, Randy is taking a company through the Blues Brothers experience, so she's not able to join us today. We'll miss her. I told her she could break away to come on in, so maybe she'll come in during this. We appreciate you watching us. You know, last week's episode, we have had views in the thousands of our last episode where we talked about church. So we appreciate you being here. We know that the majority of people watch us on the replay, not when we're doing this live, but we appreciate you being here, whether you're live or you're listening to the replay or you're listening to our podcast where the audio goes out, because we're accessible all over the internet, all kinds of stuff. And we also appreciate Randy's actually promoting us up on Instagram over there. He's really good at that. So thanks for being here. So what's today's subject? Today's subject is all about change. That's right, change. And I want you to think for a minute. How many businesses do you know of that have disappeared in your lifetime? Perhaps in the last couple decades or even in the last year, because they didn't take on the change. One that comes to mind for me is Sears Roebuck. Sears Roebuck owned the retail market at one time. We grew up, we picked our Christmas presents out. But the problem was Sears Roebuck did not reinvent itself. And this little company came along by the name of Amazon and just knocked their socks right out from underneath them and now owns it. How much stuff do we order from Amazon every single day? If your house is like mine, and Randy, I saw this at your house the other week. Y'all were gone. It looked like a tractor trailer had unloaded on an Amazon loading dock. I mean, sometimes our front porch, it's like there's a tractor trailer pulled up here. Last night, I came home. Cheryl and I went to a concert. Amazon had delivered 9 to 10 o'clock. And I had a couple items sitting out there on the doorstep last night. But
our neighbors used to offer, like, oh, you got a delivery. Now they don't offer. They're going to pull a muscle trying to get stuff in our house.
That's it.
It's just too many deliveries.
Here's a book that I got a while back. It's an illustrated business history of the United States. And it goes back through, it was printed in 2021, went through the change of businesses. What was the hot businesses in 1900, in 1910, 1930? And you look at this and look at the changes that went on in this industry. If we look at companies, Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's not Kentucky Fried Chicken no more. It's KFC. Why? Because of the concentration on the mindset of cholesterol. They couldn't use the word fried anymore. If you look at Sprint was actually a railroad company. And when we look at this, this is where companies are constantly having to reinvent. If you don't reinvent, guess what? You're not going to make it. Business today and life is a constant source of reinvention. There's another book here I want to bring to your attention. What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it's authored by Marshall Goldsmith with a guy by the name of Mark Reeder. And it's all about what got you to where you're at. So think for a minute. What's the things that got you to where you're at today? Were they truly going to get you to your business dreams? Cheryl, let's start with you today. With my beginning dissertation and description of what we're talking about today, how has change affected you? How has change affected your business? Let's take for an example. You've been a truck driver. You drove to California back with an ex-husband. You've been a wallpaper hanger. You've worked in an office. You own a manufacturing plant. Today, you're a certified coach and disc assessor. How big has change been in your life?
Every day. If you don't change and keep up with it, a lot of my changes were mandatory. I had to feed my children. I had to have a man's job because at that time women did not get paid that well. So I had to look for a job that a man did. That was back in the late 70s, early 80s when I drove the tractor trailer. But I I had to change my mindset. And it was really hard because I had small children at that time. So it became extremely hard to do. But yeah, you just, you get up every morning and you change. But yes, have I changed over and over? You and I have had some life altering changes as we've come through. So you can't stop there. You just reinvent and go on. I mean, I could have been a mother all my life, but I did not. I am still a mother, don't get me wrong, but I could have been an active only mother. But because of change, I had to change with it because of being a provider. And life goes on. We get up every morning, we change. And if you don't, I've seen people sit in the same spot their whole life.
That's it. And everybody has dreams, but so often, and one of the things that a coach of ours told us one time, his name was Larry Wingett, and he said, Jerry, in order to get where you want to go, there's probably things that you're going to have to give up. And there's something else involved. As you're growing a company, what's going to happen is the people that helped you get to this point, many times they're not going to be able to grow with that company and get to the next point. So you're going to go through this constant change. There's going to be people in your team. Josh, let's go over for a minute. How often in the company that you've worked for, Tri County Energy, Magic Broom, how often has change come into that company? If we look at it, your mom and dad started this company in 1970. Yep. And back in those days, the only thing people knew about chimney sweeps was what they saw on Mary Poppins and Where's Your Top Hat? And yeah, I've seen pictures of your dad, your mom wearing top hats and tails and all that kind of stuff. So where do you see change and how it's affected your life and your business up there in Waldorf, Maryland?
So there's, of course, there's the electrification of fireplaces is a big one. As we're currently remodeling the showroom, that's a great big one for us. Digital, just new processes. We're always rolling out new processes. It's interesting. I roll them out so often, my team just rolls with it. And I'm not used to having to hold big meetings and implement processes. As I've worked with other coaches, like I can make changes on the fly in our software. No one even bats an eye anymore. They're just like, oh, Josh made a change. Like, keep moving forward. Where other companies, it's like comes to a grinding halt. Like, wait a minute, they freak out. They're not used to it. They become stiff and rigid. And then eventually, people come disenfranchised. I like to go back a lot of the times to that book. It's a simple 60-page book, Who Moved My Cheese? Have you ever read that one about some people, the guy who refuses to change starves to death?
It is. Reinvention is what we go through. I mean, it's like right before this call, Josh, you and I were on a conference call with one of my clients. And this client is actually expanding into a wholly new part of his business. And the other day he's talking about he doesn't know what systems are going to be put together. And we just had a call and you shared with him your digital knowledge base of what you've built for your business. And it was so overwhelming because as he looked at this, he had no idea until we demonstrated what all the systems were going to be involved in making this a successful transition. Was that kind of amazing what you just saw in that call we had?
Yeah, that as I listed out all the different forms, checklists, SOPs, and everything to make his staff successful day one, those all, unfortunately, when I came on 20 years ago, we didn't have anything. We didn't have one simple checklist. And, those developed out of pain points because I was doing installs, early on in my career, and I couldn't believe we couldn't ask a simple question like, hey, do you do you even have an appliance in the hole that we need to remove, like that we need to be prepared for? Because if, let's just say I'm going to put in a gas insert, I'm not bringing a dolly because the stove weighs 100 pounds. I'm just going to, me and the guy are going to grab a handle and we're just going to bring it in the house. Then you show up and you find that there's a wood stove in the hole, then all of a sudden your day has changed.
Right. And so what this involved, your wiki system, your digital knowledge base, it involved a reinvention. And the reason you reinvented it was to stop the pain. Would you agree with that?
Very, very much to stop the pain.
Right. Which goes back to the point of view I developed some years ago about, change is painful. It really is. But you got to make a decision. Do you want to go through the pain of change, or do you want to remain in the pain that you're in? And many times we look at it right now in 2023. I saw Tommy Mello said this earlier. Leads have dropped dramatically in 2023. 2022, 2021, and even back in 2020. This industry, the home services segment, was running a big benefit because of COVID. And now that's changed. People are getting out again. So they're not concentrating on their home services like they were. And now it's made getting leads all that much harder. And you got to work harder. And somebody just added the comments, Facebook user, I can remember a time when change was not often. Now it seems change is a daily standard, especially in the retail business. But actually, it's in any business. It's in any business. So, Randy, coming around to you, you've always got great thoughts, and I wanted to hold off. Everybody else go forward. And here's some of the wisdom from Mr. Sperling today. So when I talk about change, and I watched the other night, you had a post on Facebook this week where you had some friends over. You guys were sitting around the fire pit, and you were talking about business, I believe. But where does change? What's changed to you? What do you see where, in your personal experience, are watching other people? Because you got friends that have really moved to a high level by changing their business. So what's your thoughts on change, Randy?
I mean, it's just like Josh said, it's constant. And last show or two that Josh and I were talking, and we were saying like how if it's not one or two times that you hear something new, you have to implement a new change to the script, to the systems. And if you don't, you're way behind. And way behind could be as simple as you sent the wrong service truck without a dolly, right? So now we all know, as we start to talk with other business owners, maybe to limit some of our exposure to like loss and stuff like that. But I actually want to say something different about change. Early in my business, I was afraid if somebody couldn't, let's say they left, and I was like, oh no, what are we gonna do without this technician? And then what you found is like, you made it actually worked out for the better. I was afraid of change, and I should have been on the forefront of that and made the change myself, because I knew deep down maybe that technician wasn't a right fit. But like a lot of small business owners were like, we need everybody to go to work. So most of the time when we see change, it's early in the business, it happens to you. Later in business, you're way ahead of it and you're making changes intentionally.
Yep. I keep some on my desk. This will belong to my daddy. My daddy was a police officer. And one of the things that I got from him was this was the handcuffs that he used to carry on his belt. And I often use this when I'm talking to business owners, because so often that's what they are. They're handcuffed to the business. And we listened to what Josh said a while ago. He was through a pain point. And the pain was people were asking him questions over and over. And Josh, if I asked you a question 3 times, where's your blood pressure go?
Oh, it goes straight up through the roof.
It does. If somebody comes in your office and asks a question more than once, what's the pain?
Oh, well, for me, 20 minutes lost time because I'm that easily distracted. I mean, I'm sitting here right now playing with my putty, so I can just stay concentrating right now. So it's just, it's the distraction. It's keeping on point. Like I want to get my job done too. Like I have a family to get home too. So like, but I'm the boss. Like I can't leave until, X, Y, and Z is done for the day, whatever time that is. So that may be 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I've done the 8, 9 o'clock too. And fortunately I've never had to sleep at the shop, but every one of those distractions just kicked you back further and further.
Yeah, it does.
I would say Jerry, at that fire pit when we had, I think we had 11 small business owners together, and honestly, some of them were not our friends. They are now, but they were just people who were consistently.
Wait a minute, you invited your enemies over?
No, that's not what I mean. Friends are friends. These are just the people that we know through Facebook.
These are just acquaintances.
Right, but now they're like, you did build a relationship. But one of the things about change was, something I said was repeated a few times that night, which is I said, I'm good with 85%. And they're like, what do you mean? Because they're afraid to change from being the owner operator to hiring the next person. And I'm like, well, I'm good with 85% because it's much easier for me to oversee a few people and just tweak and move the needle than it is to do all the damn work because I'm the only one that can do it. So the change for them was getting out of their own way. And one guy is a great electrician. He's got two team members out in the field. And I specifically said, your next hire is someone in the office because you're not that good at it and you need to get out of there. And then a lady next to me who does a lot of medical stuff, I said to her, I'm like, you need to hire probably like a partner or somebody to come in because she can't trust the employee mindset. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe in medical 85 is not good enough. But in service-based business, when I say 85%, I know that's still much higher than our competition, right? I don't mean 85% like we're going to leave stuff behind or do something wrong, but 85% of what I would oversee is fair.
Yeah. And I heard this interesting statistic, and Josh, it backs up what you just said. When somebody comes up to you as a manager and says, can I have a minute to ask a question? That the average amount of time that's lost in that discussion is 24 minutes. 24 minutes that you lose. Josh, you hold your hand up.
Is that for both people each, or is that just the person being asked a question?
That would be for both persons, so 12 minutes each, but 24 minutes, which is almost half a man hour. And if you compute man hour in business, that could be $100, $200 man hour cost. And that's where devising these systems. But you see, this is what I find. My business is coaching people, coaching business owners. And part of that is doing an analysis of their business. And when you do an analysis of the business, you're going in, you're kicking the tires, and you're going to see all the bad stuff. And I often wonder, and I ask people, how did you get to this point that you called me? What enticed you that I may have your answers? And the answer is that many people know that they need to change. They just don't know how to get there. They're looking for a path. They're looking for a journey. Randy, you probably saw that in that fire peak meeting this week. People wanted something different. They just didn't know how to make that journey.
Yeah. And another common thread that we came across out of the 11 people that we're speaking with in all different industries, which is my favorite thing to do, is mix industries. The reason behind that is because I've said this before. I'm not concerned with other cleaners. I'm concerned with the same or other industries that have the same client base. So across the industries, 11 people, number one thing was their fear of social media and marketing. And the fears are all different, but they all had a fear of it, so they just didn't do it. And so again, if you're going to talk about change, just set a calendar appointment and start. And that would help them overcome some of those fears, once they start seeing a positive feedback.
Yeah. So Cheryl, let's go back to you. In your present day career, you deal with business owners and you deal with their hiring, and you're doing recruiting and hiring for them. And still, how often do you see that people are stuck and they're scared to hire someone, or they just don't have the time to pull the trigger? I know you told me yesterday that you had actually, one of your clients wanted you to go back and review the people that they thought may fit the bill. And you contacted numerous people and they lost every single one of them because they had sat on their fingers and had not contacted that person. Am I correct?
Yeah, and that's the problem. If you've got an employee that you're in, or that I've found a good one, if they're good, they're not going to be out there in the market long. They're going to be swallowed up. So it's the expedition of the speed that gets it in. I mean, I don't let resumes sit. I jump on them. As soon as they're good, I send them to the customer. Client, if they're smart, they'll jump on them the very same time. because I've seen within 2 or 3 days, the good people get eaten up, for lack of a better word. And I watched it, like you say, just the other day. They didn't want to hire, and then all of a sudden they did. Went back into some. We keep the ads open all the time, so I went back into some, sent out a bunch of contacts, and they had all already taken jobs.
Well, their criteria of what they were looking for was so narrow, it was practically impossible to find the person that fit in that demographic category they were looking for. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of the things I cannot ask for is gender. I cannot ask for a male only to respond. They were looking for a CSR that was a male. And you just don't get many of those. So I had numerous ladies apply, but I just had to I just had to not contact them. And so it went on and on. All of a sudden, they panicked, need one right now. And there's nothing coming in at this point.
That's it. So I understand. So, Josh, subject could change. Any other words you would add into today's broadcast about the need to reinvent as you've seen in your life? You're reinventing your life right now, going into new careers, working with us here at CBC Success Group. You're doing something you truly enjoy that you're good at. But this is going to be a big transition for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's it just in so many ways, because I'm not going to have a staff, to support. I'm not going to have an office, as my son's over here bouncing a ball. Who I want to chuck something at. It's a lot of self-motivation, because, the business, I got it to run itself, in this quest for, more time with the family. And, I've kind of achieved that at this point. And it's getting one of those goals is more time at home to do the stuff I want to do.
Did you ever envision that managing that business could be done remotely with very little day-to-day involvement out of yourself, Josh?
Well, that's what I started on this path, 5 years ago, was building the business as a franchise model. And that's what I think I've built is, take my systems and voila, day one, you can run it as a franchise. My uncle owns a franchise. It's a moving company franchise. And I went through and looked at his agreement, and now it's obviously structured way, way different than what I did. But, just as examples, and I read other companies' handbooks and things like that. But the whole point being is I've been structuring it to run itself, without a manager present for years, because, finding someone to run a hair shop is very difficult. Cheryl will tell you it's very difficult. Cheryl's been looking for a good manager for me for years. And just,
you don't have the opportunity to build one in, or bring somebody from a different industry and then train them up in your industry, but by taking their skill set?
So what I've found is that when I've tried to hire guys who are from like the flooring industry or furniture or Lowe's or whatever, our trade is so specialty, they're not willing to do the work.
Wrong guy, but yeah, I get it.
There's so much education we have to do, because we play with fire in people's home. The risk is so high that I've had real trouble finding anybody. Yeah, they say they can be a manager or whatever, but when it comes to actually doing the work that it takes to be a specialty retail manager, they're not willing to do that.
Right. One of the things is, and like I said, to be honest with you, Randy, I could place 6 operation general managers tomorrow. 6. That many companies right now in our client base are looking for that person. But what they got to do is hiring someone from outside with the management skill levels. Yeah, we need that. But we got to teach them how to become a subject matter expert. Because I'll tell you something. If you have someone managing people and they do not understand the technical side of the business, and they're not a subject matter expert, they'll never have the respect of the men and the women in the company. They'll never have that respect. So it's of utmost importance they've had it. Josh has had a couple managers there, and some of them have been long term, some short term, but realistically, none have ever really excelled whatsoever. But Randy, let's go over to you. I never met you till a couple months ago. Your personal assistant sent me a message, said, "Hey, Randy Sperling wants to talk to you." And I said, "What does Randy Sperling want to talk to me about?" And what it was, how did I measure success? And you and I had a conversation, and we built this relationship, and we've never met each other face to face. In fact, you got to change that. You told me you were going to come down here. We're going to get together one day. You're going to drive your Corvette down.
I'll take you out for a ride. We'll go out there.
For a ride. But now you're going through a big transition. You've decided that working as a coach to help people is something you want to do. And you're embarking on training as a certified coach under John Maxwell. And you asked me all kinds of questions about how to do that. And I've tried to give you all the advice I could that could make you successful moving forward. But why do you want to excel in something different? Why do you want to go through this change, Randy? What is it about Randy that wants to accomplish this?
You know what's interesting is that I actually don't see it as a change. I see it as more of an addition to what we already provide. And one of the things I started last year when I thought about building like a coaching curriculum is I started taking my own advice. Like I was like, wait a minute, if I'm going to tell somebody to do this, let me clean up my houses and all the businesses that we own. So there was a little delay there, and people would say, oh, I thought you were going to get into coaching business. You know what I would tell them? Be flexible. I'm not ready. So when people worry about changing their business, that's my phrase. Just be flexible, and you're allowed to change your mind. So we're now feel a little bit more confident to move forward towards that coaching. And I still haven't developed exactly what it is and what it's going to look like, because I personally don't want one-on-one. I think group coaching is a better fit for me. But when it comes to that like advice, I say be flexible and don't make change. Like don't change every time you see like a new certification doesn't mean a new service. A new this, new that, just slow down a little bit. It's a lot like when people win the lottery, you're supposed to wait 6 months before you throw all the money away. If you get a new idea, sit on it for a minute. You know, that's what I learned, is to not move so fast. In the very beginning, I would move fast. And that fast is not always doing things well.
And you said that last week when we interviewed the people from Chirp. You had some, fast is, moving, slow is fast. And a lot of times it gives measure growth. So dead on the money. And now you got this guy that's pushing his thumb in your back. It's like, hey, you got to do this. You got to do that.
Yeah.
Where you at on this, right? You get those.
I like it, though.
You get those texts like, where you at on this project, okay? Right?
I know. Now when I look at your number come up on my phone, I'm like, this guy. I got to come up with another excuse.
Yeah, it's like Josh, he's a client for years. It's like, hey, he can tell you see my number come up and you could see the eyes roll around. I'm used to that crap. Hey, it ain't no problem. So, Cheryl, any additional thoughts from you on change and the need for change?
Live with Jerry long enough, you'll change a lot. But that's my initial statement. But no, the thing about it, things change every day. Our lives changed when Facebook came in. It changed when when the apps came in, when everything else has popped in. So the thing you've got that people have to realize during this changing period is what to take and use and what to leave behind.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
I would also add that, like when you just said when Facebook came on, the traditional marketing methods changed, and I saw people, they just couldn't keep up with the gap because they were still in the yellow pages, which I still see people market in the yellow page books, and it blows my mind because they're about 15 years behind change. And we all know that business is just like that train, right? Once you slow it down, it takes a long time to get that traction. So they may change one time, put out a Facebook post or a Google ad. It didn't work this week, so they don't do it. And they don't know why we spend so much money on it. People say, oh, we see you everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but you didn't for about the 7 years leading to now, because it took me 4 years to get that social media presence, that Google like listing and natural organic stuff. I wasn't afraid to change. I saw it. I was like, somebody accidentally called us on Google for a completely wrong service dry cleaning, because we are carpet cleaners that dry quickly. They called us for dry cleaning. I'm like, wait a minute. If those words got us the wrong call, what would the right words do? And this was in 2016. Like, I still feel like that was behind the ball. But when I talk to other businesses, they're like, Google what? Like, we use Google, but they don't use Google for their business. And it blows me away. Blows me away.
That's it. Josh, any last words on change from you, brother?
No, I think I've kind of said, who moved my cheese? Those would be my recommendation.
There you go. That's a good one. So you got a couple recommendations on books and things like that in this episode. Cheryl, any last words from you today?
Just stay up with the times. I mean, the older you get, the harder it is. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there because there's more stuff coming. But if you don't keep up with the times and the changes, you're going to be left behind at whatever stage of life you're in.
That's it. Randy, final words of wisdom. You've always got some words of wisdom. That's why I got you on here, brother.
I appreciate it. I would just say welcome change and look at it and then adjust slowly and appropriately. You know, don't be afraid of it. Welcome it. You know, and again, my words are always be intentional. Make sure it's the right path. It's going down the right way.
And to reinforce what Randy just said, just don't just welcome it, embrace it with open arms. The opportunities are great. And many times what happens is it's going to involve coming out of your comfort zone. But so many times that's where your dreams are going to reside. They're going to reside right outside of your comfort zone. Randy just talked about getting with social media. Hey, it takes a while to learn to go out broadcasting live, doing videos, these kind of things. But what happens is this is the day's way of marketing. This is how you touch base with your community. And your community is those who buy from you or may buy from you. So anyway, we're CBC Success Group. If you need somebody to talk to help you put together that strategic plan, if you need somebody to help you build your systems, hey, we got that. That's what Josh is sitting out there for, to build the systems for your business. You having problems with your hiring? Hey, that's where Cheryl comes into play, understanding the behavior patterns. And like I say, we got Randy coming out here. Hey, we're trying to still decide where Randy's going to sit out there, but he's going to be an addition, and he's a guy you can talk to too. So the key thing is don't be scared of change. Welcome change, like Randy said, and go even further and embrace that change, like I said. So anyway, appreciate you joining this episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network. We'll be here every week, 12 p.m. Hopefully we'll have Randy back with us next week, but we appreciate you watching us. We're available on all kinds of social media. We're available on our podcast that goes out over major networks, and we're also now broadcasting on TikTok. So appreciate you being here. Let us know how we can help you go through that change and reach your dreams in business